Thanks, Jill. Well, as we got that historic job number this morning, I do want to bring in our next guest, Lindsey Piegza. She's a chief economist for Stifel Financial. Lindsey, it's great to have you with us this morning. How bad are these numbers?
Well, I don't think there was necessarily anything unexpected in the report. The market was looking for a pretty dismal number this morning, but it does remind us just the intensity of the negative ramifications as a result of these policies shutting down the economy, shutting down entire sectors of the economy. And we see that the job losses were very widespread. As you mentioned a second ago, the first wave coming down was pretty much in hospitality. We saw this in hotels, restaurants, these areas that needed to be shut down to contain the spread of the virus. But now we're seeing this second wave come down, impacting those that were thought to be able to effectively work from home. So we're talking about government workers, lawyers, even medical staff, or at least those not on the front line. So this really reminds us that this is a pandemic impacting every sector, nearly every American in this country.
Lindsey, are you convinced that the worst is behind us? Investors are pushing the S&P 500 higher because of that expectation. Is that what you see?
Not necessarily. First, we do know that the survey period ended halfway through the month, so there could have been further job losses that aren't reflected in this report. Also, the concern is going forward that many of these businesses that have been able to struggle and stay open for the past couple of weeks may not be able to make it if we do see the economy continue to be shut in for several more weeks. Yes, there are some states that are relaxing their restrictions, but there's other states that are actually extending those stay-at-home orders through May or into June. So it really remains to be seen whether we can say this is the worst of it. What we do know is that this is pretty bad, and it could actually continue from here.
And I know the peak was during the Great Depression, 24.9% unemployment rate at that time, according to government estimates. Do you anticipate that we could reach that number by next month?
I think the unemployment rate is going to peak closer to about 16 to 18%. I don't think we're going to get up to that 20% level. But again, these are still very dire numbers, and the concern is that we remain at these elevated levels. And the idea is, even if we do reopen the economy, many of these jobs may not come back. Restaurants may reopen, but they may only reopen with half their staff. Boutiques may open, but they may have restrictions of the number of customers coming in, only needing a few workers to be employed. And so as the economy reopens, it's going to be a very slow process. It's going to take time for businesses to reconnect to their supply chains, reconnect to workers. And on the demand side, we as consumers may have permanently changed how we shop, how we interact with other people. Even if we are allowed to go back to movie theaters or bowling alleys, there may be a lingering hesitancy to do so, both because of health concerns as well as financial restraints after weeks of not having a paycheck.
Lindsey, quickly, a historic 20.5 million people without a job. What do you think the number really is when you take into account the people that haven't been able to file for benefits?
Well, it's not only the people that haven't been able to file for benefits, but there are a number of people that have been extremely discouraged by this entire event and have not been actively seeking employment, so they're no longer being counted. Now, yes, the BLS did relax that survey in some cases, but it may still not be capturing the entire number of jobless Americans out there. So the number could be closer to about 25 million as opposed to just 20.5 million as we saw this morning.
All right, Lindsey Piegza, she's a chief economist for Stifel Financial. Lindsey, thanks for joining us this morning.